Larissa Shutt is here after her TV studio appearance last night. So we're glad you could join us as well. So just for, I know it's recording. I'm going to be stepping off at 5:40, but I know we made a lot of progress tonight. Just wanted to call that out ahead of time and not duck out and feel unsettled. Kelly, you want to kick us off?
I'm going to unmute myself first. You can see the PowerPoint screen, right? I'm on a different computer. So just as a reminder, please mute yourself when you're not talking. Use the chat function or jump in, raise your hand to ask any questions. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted for the public. If work group members could please type your name in the chat for attendance, that would be great. Back to you, Aaron.
Actually, back to Chuck. So Chuck is
okay. Welcome everyone.
Yep. And then the next one, meeting minutes.
All right. What's next? Is it we rehash the goals and everything, right? Oh, meeting minutes. Oh,
approval.
We have some minutes from November, I believe. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
All right. We have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
And that was who?
Shannon.
All right, Shannon, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the November minutes. Let's see who is in favor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Nope, motion passes. All right, next. Goals, we want to, well, we do have a couple updates from December. Legislative update. We want to talk about our concept for the report card, the update on the ombuds ombuds office, which we do know was awarded to Delaware PIC, Parent Information Center, I believe. If that's not right, then they'll correct me when we get there. And then public comment. Next. All right. Next is Aaron, is this you or me? I forget.
Sure, I'll take it. So consortium meeting updates. We have submitted the RFP feedback that we talked about in December. Thank you all so much. And that was accepted. Legislative session has started, as many of you know. So that is ongoing. And our 1-year anniversary of being together is tomorrow. So I'm going to put up my own little heart emoji on my Zoom square. It's been a year getting to know all of you. Do the next slide. So legislative updates. We're watching for, as always, the settlement committee. Our charge is to make sure we're watching on legislation that's relevant to the lawsuit and to the settlement that took place. As of 1/18, there's been nothing new. There's some things on the horizon. We'll get to something that was Shannon in a second. The governor's budget will be coming out, so we'll be watching for that, the FY23 budget. And then we were also watching the state of the state on 1/20. So there's some proposals out there. There's some conversations. Again, budget's not been submitted yet, but we are looking forward to that, and also seeing some positive directions towards our the settlement. I want to jump into so Shannon to share some updates. Before we get to that, yeah, Shannon to share some updates about some work that's been taking place that she has been leading. Then we'll get into the collaborative, and then we'll talk about some more of the reporting for this year, as you already saw in your notes. So with that, Shannon, take it away.
All right. Hello and good evening, everyone. Just wanted to provide you guys where we are with regards to the ombudsperson program resolution and the proposed legislation. We have been working with a small group. Tika's been involved. Bill Doolittle, I want to give a special acknowledgement because he did a lot of heavy lifting and drafting both the resolution and the bill. We've had a couple representatives participate with us as well. Representative Namdi Chakocha. We've had Representative Kim Williams. We've had Senator Tizzy Lockman participating, as well as Aaron. So we've had a pretty engaged group, and also another member from Safe Schools, Amy Bailey, who's a member of that group. So you guys were provided with a draft of the resolution and the bill. And so for the sake of time, I'm certainly not going to go through and reading it line by line. But we do want you all to have an opportunity to review it carefully, to provide any input, suggestions, corrections, clarifications that you may need. Our hope and goal is that we can get the subcommittee to approve it and then get it to the full committee by the end of February for approval. And then we want to continue then to lobby to get additional sponsorships for the bill and resolution. So just really quickly, the resolution is designed to reinstate the Delaware State Parent Advisory Council. That was a body that had been really active, particularly like the 80s and the 90s, and somewhat in the early 2000s. But it's really composed. It's composed of public school parents and caregivers across the state that would be appointed by district personnel. So you want to revive that group because it would serve as an independent governing body that would do a couple things. One, it acts as an advisory group for Title I programs across the state, and all of this is well within the requirements under ESSA. They will monitor, advise, and report on the status of equitable education for Title I students, including equity plans, school improvement plans, consolidated grade applications. They did a lot of that work where they actually did school visits. They actually had interviews with parents and other interested parties, as well as LEA's representatives as well. We want to revive that. They will participate in a standard review regulatory process and make recommendations, collaborate with the DOE to develop an annual Title I plan and approval of Delaware's Title I strategic plan. It will also establish and manage its Educational Equity Council. This is key because this is the group that would actually oversee the ombudsperson program itself. So think about there's the state PAC, it's like the umbrella. The Education Equity Council is a group under that, and that group will then be appointed again as an independent body. Will be appointed. They'll have appointed voting and non-voting members, and in the resolution it spells out the different organizations or I guess areas where folks will be appointed from, those who have voting rights and non-voting rights as well. So you can please take particular attention to that. We wanted to make sure it was a comprehensive group, but we also wanted to make sure that the voting folks were really parent community folks and not necessarily the system folks who are part of the traditional system, because that's the point of having this independent body. They would also review and act as a managing oversight entity for the Educational Ombuds program itself. They will provide an annual report to the legislator and the governor's office around activities like the equity programs and plans, the course outcomes of the office itself, inputs, outputs, goals, that kinds of things for the office itself. We have access to educational data and reports at the same level and time frame and priority as the DOE. And I can't tell you folks who are already here understand the importance of being able to have access data and be able to have it in a timely manner. They will develop and request additional reports as warranted. It'd be staffed by have one administrative staff from the DOE, again from administrative standpoint. And the budget that's outlined for this, I believe, is $20,000 annually to oversee, to help to run the actual Delaware State Parent Advisory Council. So that's the resolution. Any questions about that before I go on to the bill? And again, you guys have it in writing to really kind of go through it with a fine-tooth comb if necessary. But that's kind of the highlights of the resolution.
Hi, Shannon, Chuck here. I did read through it. It looks like you guys are still hammering on it a little bit as far as detail, right? There's a little couple numbering things and all that. So it's still kind of in progress, right?
Yeah, but I would say we're probably about 98% there.
Okay.
I don't anticipate any major overhauls or any major changes at this point. We're just kind of tweaking at it to finalize some components.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right, and now the bill itself. So of course it would establish the equity ombudsperson program. And from now on, I'm just going to call it the EOP to save myself some time. It would establish it as an independent body. The one thing that's notable is that the DOE Act will act as a contract holder for the purpose of funding, but the RFP, grant awards, decisions around the Educational Equity Council will be all driven by the EOP and the Delaware State Act. The EOP will focus on non-legal interventions with school districts and the DOE to resolve disputes, complaints with the DOE and other ELAs. A couple other key functions is it seeks to address issues of racism, ableism, and other sources of marginalization and inequity from impacted students, provide technical support in coordination with the DOE and local LEAs, parents, students, to ensure equitable treatment, and to make sure that programs like federal and state programs are being run effectively, and policies and practices are being upheld. They will monitor other additional federal programs in addition to Title I, Part A and C, Title II, Part A, Title III, Title IV, the McKinney-Vento, and other federal and state programs as a monitoring agent. It will support districts and DOEs develop and revise policies and regulations as part of the state review process, and provide research-based best practices to ensure equity, including discipline, academic, teacher diversity, effective instruction, curriculum, social emotional learning, and extra time supports. This is an attempt for this organization to take a more systemic view of what's happening in a more proactive manner. Another key component is the ability for the EOP to act as non-lawyer advocates for families to resolve issues, but then also being able to appropriate desirable pro bono and subcontract services when warranted. And there's a couple stipulations for what has to be met before the office will be able to refer cases for litigation. So please take extra care in reviewing that as well. What's proposed is that there will be a one-time $250,000 seed fee to Classy to actually begin if they have cases that they need to refer right away, that there's some seed money built in. Initial and ongoing funding shall be provided at no less than $40,000 per year. The Equity Educational Council shall make annual recommendations to the governor and the legislature about ongoing funding. The expectation is that that would be at $1 million in the first year, and then it would be increased $2 million, $2.5, $3 million each subsequent year, given the demand and scope of work that the office has been able to take on. Any questions around that?
Larissa.
Thanks. I have a question. I don't really know how to raise my hand, but Shannon, it's really incredible. Does this mean then that if this person, let's say the law passes, this person sees any inequitable practices that are happening across the board in education, they could raise a flag around that?
Correctly. So exactly. So they would have this independent entity to help really look into that. The group should have access to any appropriate data that could either support or dispel any particular issues. This gives an additional advocacy avenue. And that's the one thing I really hope we can keep at the forefront. This is designed to be an advocacy organization for parents, guardians, and caregivers. Right? This is not designed to be another governing body arm of the system. It's really meant to be independent so that it can act independently and proactively for families and students. Any other questions? That was really, really fast, and I apologize. But again, you guys have it in writing to take a look at, and we do want to hear from you all. So again, really take some time to go through it. I will put my email in the chat. So if you have specific questions that we want to raise, please let me know. We do want to finalize this. We were able to get actually, Senator Trocha has already endorsed it. And then our other legislators that have been part of our small committee are providing their final, will be providing their final approval or other edits. We hope by the end of this week.
Thank you, Shannon. This is Chuck. I did read it. You guys did provide it to us ahead of time. There are a lot of concepts in definitely the DESPAC and that I can get behind, and the ombudsperson document. There's some stuff in here that I absolutely can't get behind. And so I wanted to bring that out for discussion, so to see if it's something that we could work on. I noticed in there that there was some passages about legal costs being borne by the school districts. And there was something about the burden of proof being on the LEA. And what that brings to mind is something we're already experiencing in the special ed space, where you have, yeah, sure, sometimes legal action does need to be taken in order to get things done. However, quite often we also see predatory law practices coming in. We see predatory quasi-legal things, predatory quasi-legal advocates. Sometimes that amounts to pretty much just a shakedown for money. You know, I hate to say it that way, but that's from our perspective, it often seems like that. And so how do we make it so that we, I'm just putting it out there for maybe a later version. How can we make it so that we can get the right things done without it being a cash grab? I'm just going to say it straight up that way. So, you know, if a legal entity or something wants to come and challenge us on something. So that's my comment. So
Yep.
Thank you.
Great feedback. And one of the caveats in there, a little lower in the bill, basically specifies that it has to be like a non-for-profit Delaware firm that would actually take those kinds of cases. Of course, we know Classy is well established, which is why that was named specifically as a go-to entity for legal support. So I certainly hear your concerns on that. I don't know if we're able to allow Bill, if he may want to provide comment on that.
Yeah, Bill can definitely jump in, and I want to push, if you have questions, just because the time it's 5:20. We submit questions. This is still, Shannon said 90% done, but still in draft form. So any questions, pushes, I wanted to introduce it tonight just so people were aware of it, start some conversation, but definitely not the finished product. So this is also in a place that if there's some shaping or healthy pushes, you can do that. And Shannon's email is also in the chat. I did see Bill raise his hand, who has been working diligently on this. I also want to hit that and then move on to.
Yeah, just quickly, Shannon mentioned that it's only Delaware nonprofits that are supported by this or can be referred to. So we get away from the for-profit issue that we're currently facing. The issue of burden of proof is, with the exception of for FAPE, every other claim is as it is in the regular law. So that's a very narrow point. I don't know that we'll ever see a FAPE claim under this, by the way. It's done. So it was specifically designed not to have the problems we're having right now with the special education world. So know that we gave it a lot of thought.
And still, and again, shout out to Shannon, to Bill, to the team of folks that have been looking at this work too. And again, make sure you are sending all emails to Shannon. And I look forward to follow up on this as well, because I think it's important, especially considering the settlement, and this is right in our alley. And I do apologize. I want to get to a couple pieces tonight, and then we'll get to the schedule for the rest of the year as well. We have another meeting set up for February 7th, and you'll get to that in 1 minute. Shannon, you were closing out. Anything you wanted to add?
No, just thank you for the opportunity to share, and look forward to receiving any additional questions, comments, concerns.
Perfect. And we also have pick tonight, so we'll get to that as well. The Wilmington Learning Collaborative, if you've not seen, Larissa gave a wonderful hour-long interview last night, but the governor, the updates for Wilmington Collaborative that was shared with us from John Sheehan in a previous meeting, that is still moving forward. The first year, instead of starting September of this year, it will be a planning year with some implementation. So there's a longer runway. I know there was some concern shared by members in this group that it might be happening ASAP. And there's also a proposal for $7 million for the Wilmington Collaborative and a lot of advocacy taking place. I know different members of this committee have been involved in some very high or feedback level work. So definitely thank you for all of that. But wanted to just give some breath to that as that's still moving forward. I also know that Christina has voted to move forward, and other districts are also having those conversations as well. So that's just that update. And we'll go to the next slide. The FY23 settlement requirements. Chuck, you want to take it through what those are? Just to focus us.
Sure. Yep, next slide, please. So 23 opportunity funding, it's here, or it's here already. So this is really just a repeat of of last year. Then in following years, we'll move up to 55 and 65. K3 basic special education is, it's already in progress. So they've, you know, I think if we do have a grading system as we're talking about, they'll probably get a good grade on this one. It's progressing. Next slide, please. Early education is also progressing too. We see, you know, some more ECAP seats being put out there, and some things with early education. So it is nice to see that that accelerated. So that's one of the things we wanted as a committee, was to accelerate some of these settlement items. Teacher recruitment retention for next year, another commitment for teacher recruitment and retention. We're going to be looking for that in the governor's recommended budget. Ombudsperson and equity statement are things that are already in the works, and we'll discuss more about ombuds later on. And independent funding assessment. And you did hear that, I don't know if they've heard yet, but we did get at least a acknowledgement. Thank you for our feedback for the RFP. So we'll see what from our Reading Consortium recommendations make it into the RFP. And is there another slide after this? No. Okay.
Report card. And if you did reply, if you did submit individual feedback, you should have also gotten an email back about the independent funding assessment. So talking about the settlement, we've looked at a year in review. Remember, tomorrow is our first date when we all met together on January 25th, 2021. And we want to look at year in review. So next slide, please. Year in review. So criteria, we'd like to give a report card. And just to be clear, this would be more so a report card that is used for the legislature, used for DOE, and for all the entities involved. And so that is the purpose of the report card. These are the criteria. We tried to link it to similar numbers to what's being used for DESA or SBAC. The numbers are, the information there is important. So 4 being proactive in the highest, and then 1, the responsible parties missed the deadline. So we want to make sure we're giving updates. There is guidance, and there is legal action that can take place if there are pieces not met for the settlement, but we also know that that's part of our job. So this is the criteria, implementation status. Any questions about 1 through 4 before I move to the next slide? Perfect. All right. And then the next slide will be criteria alignment with expectations. Has the implementation of each settlement provision align with the expectations of the work group to make meaningful progress towards educational equity? And so these are the 4 there as well. And then to the next slide, this is what we were looking at doing. So We have those two indicators: implementation status and then alignment with expectations. So very simple. One thing we did not do was to grade on the impact. I think that is a very meaningful conversation, also becomes very subjective. So while we have shown you implementation and alignment with expectations, just because of how the settlement is looking at, we focus on those two areas. This would be for 2021 grade. You saw already, we've kept the same report, the same focus of the settlement at every meeting. That's been at the top of every hour, so everyone knows this is what we're talking about. We wanted to actually look at as what's taking place with K-3 Spec Ed. We've seen that there's been bill passages that have actually worked. So, hey, that's some stuff right there, some good stuff. Ombudsperson, we do happen to have PIC here tonight. And so this is not the Ombudsperson program necessarily. This is PIC is in charge of it, and Midra will talk about that in a minute. But we do want to make sure we're giving feedback and areas that it fell short. As you already know, this group has had at least 2 meetings with secretaries of education, with the governor's office here, and also the Reading Consortium, where we felt there was some misalignment there. And so we want to be able to provide feedback on that, and also let people know that we'll be doing a 2021 and a 2022 and moving forward grade for the settlement. So before I move on, any questions about the path forward, either in the chat or in out loud? And you can also put a thumbs up if you agree that we should do a rubric. We've been a busy group, that's right. And to Shannon's point, I think it's also important that we acknowledge there's been some great progress along the way, and we should acknowledge that, as well as areas of concern. So I want to highlight all of that. Perfect. So I see Larissa has the thumbs up. Shelly is nodding in 100% approval. Love this. And Dean Henry said, he said, perfect. He's nodding in agreement. All right. So if that's the case, we would, again, list the actions there, actions taken in the grade explanation. So if everyone is fine with that, we want to talk about it tonight. And then ideally, what we would do is we would send you, so Haley and Kelly would get together. We've already had conversation about what the grades happen to be. You have the criteria. We would like to put together, if everyone agrees with this framework, what those marks will be, 4, 3, 2, or 1. Share that with this committee, and then stamp that on February 7th, and then be able to share with the full Reading Consortium at the next meeting, which is February 10th. We will email you that with plenty of time in advance so you can see that. And we could actually, if we did that, we could also decide to not meet on the 7th. If people, I see 100% Chuck agreement with the framework, which I was happy to see that, because we were planning to spend 45 minutes discussing that. So if that's the case, if people want to email that they approve of the rankings and explanations, we could do that and save the February 7th meeting. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. I'm giving you more time back in your life. I'm seeing lots of approval, at least in the eyes on Zoom. So I'll take that as a so moved. Perfect. I'm seeing some thumbs up. So here's what we'll do. We will put the draft rubric, not legislation, excuse me. The draft rubric together, share that with you. And as long as everyone's in agreement, we will also take any feedback. We can have that to you as early as the end of this week, if not next, by next Monday. And then we'll have that for our next meeting. If that is the case.
And if you got, I'm going to jump in really quickly.
Yeah,
if you have any suggestions on any wording changes or anything, please send them to Haley and myself. I know Haley did send out a PDF of this. And if you have any suggestions on what number they should get or ranking, let us know as well. We're open because it's not the Kelly and Haley show. It's the settlement work group show. So
This might be a real quick question. I hope it is. When we say 2021, are we saying fiscal year / school year? Yep, not calendar year, right?
Correct. Yeah. So looking back, and the reason we use 2021 is looking back at this previous year, because 2022, this fiscal year is not done. So we cannot say this is complete until June 30th, 2022, and then July when we start up a new one. So, yep, this is fiscal year. Perfect. So we will share that with everybody. Thank y'all. This was, I was up late at night sweating, cold sweats every night until this meeting. So I appreciate you all for that one. I love the overwhelming agreement. Kelly, next slide. Path forward. So we're going to, unless there's any disagreement, so speak now or hold your peace. If you say no, I enjoyed looking at the blurred backgrounds of many people and also of their Zooms on February 7th. We will meet, but if not, you will send your feedback and we'll update that. So consortium with approval February 10th, we would share that. And then we will come back and we can even send you what that could look like already because lots of things already been implemented. So we'll come back and add those grades in there and send you some stuff in advance.
So we'll be going to the consortium for approval on the framework and the rubric, but
I'm going to
not grades yet or grades.
Well, I'm gonna make it more complicated. I'm saying because we already know what's been taking place so far, what's taking place, I would just go to venture to put the grades in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
sounds
if
good for 21, and
yeah.
then we as a group can maybe every month maintain a rolling current year, so that if somebody doesn't want a 2, they can change their ways and maybe get a 3, right? Partway through the year.
And I think this group has been effective at holding leaders accountable and had some private and public meetings about this is not what you said it's going to be. I also know that we're even looking at legislation today in response to the ombudsperson group. So I want to be very clear that this does not negate that. This does not mean that we're on agreement or that everything is perfect. And that's also why the evaluation piece, when we looked at, is this really having a positive impact? There's some areas there where we need to look at that. This does not take that away, but if we say K-3 funding, this was taking place. Opportunity funding, this is where the number is. We know it's growing to $60 million. Where are we so far? So would like to submit with grades, and as long as everyone agrees, then we'll move forward. Perfect. We have our Midra from PIC, who also has a sitter tonight. She's agreed to join us. We have focused on the ombudsman group, and so we're glad to have Tika introduce Midra tonight. Tika, take it away.
Thank you, Aaron. Give me 1 second.
Tika Lee. Oh, I see. Okay, I thought you froze for a second.
No, my computer is just moving very slow to the screen with her bio.
Oh, no problem.
Give me 1 second. But I can start with when you asked me to introduce Midra, I said, well, there's just a ton of positive things that I could say about her. I've known her for many years. She is a native Delawarean who grew up in Dunleavy. And my computer just deleted that screen. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to go to the website and pull it from there. I apologize. I also actually had it pulled up on my phone, but then it rang and I I couldn't get the call off to bring it up there.
Well, if you want, Midra could also give, you want to kick it to Midra and
Well, I can do it off the top of my head, and then I'll let her fill in
Okay.
why it's freezing. But Midra is the executive director of the Parent Information of Delaware, which is affectionately known as PIC. And PIC has been around since 1983, so it's pretty long standing in the community. And she holds a master's degree in special education. I forget from which university, but I'm sure she can tell a little bit about that in addition to the work she does. And she is also the proud parent of 3 beautiful daughters and 1 beautiful grandbaby. And then Midra, you can fill in. I apologize that my computer actually in the background is still frozen. And I'm afraid to touch anything now.
No problem. Thanks, Tika.
You're
And thank you all for inviting me this evening. As Tika mentioned, I am a Delaware native, born and raised in Dunleavy. I'm very proud of that. That is one of the first African-American communities in the state of Delaware. I am also the proud parent of, as Tika mentioned, 3 girls and a grandbaby that will be turning 1 next month. So my children are 21, 4, and 5. So I literally hit the reset button with my kids there. And it's a completely different experience, but a great experience nonetheless. Parent Information Center has been established since 1983, and I've been with PIC this year, will be 13 years. I actually started PIC as a volunteer. I was a CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate, and while advocating for a child, learned about the organization and was so, I was just amazed by the resources that were available to families and the ability to empower families that I decided to volunteer. And I've been here ever since. I've worked in every capacity within the organization. I also served as an educational surrogate parent, which is a parent that makes decisions on behalf of children whose parents' parental rights may have been terminated or they're in foster care. And their parental rights have not been terminated, but the children are under the custody of DFS. So I am very excited when we heard about we had been following the Ombudsperson program and a lot of the course of events that had led up to it. And PIC is structured. We're a statewide organization. We're funded in part through the Office of Special Education Programs. We receive both federal funding, a blend of federal funding, state funding, and some private funding sources. But our PTI program, which is the Parent Training and Information Center, funded under the Office of Special Education Programs, is really what gave PIC its structure in terms of providing technical assistance and support to families. And so in that, we have served children, families, professionals that serve youth and children with disabilities and special needs by empowering families, providing information and support. And so with this, the proposal, we felt we were situated with statewide capacity and with our existing partnerships to build upon and provide that additional level of support. And so with this ombudsman program, the area of focuses around technical assistance and advocacy, intervention to students and families, conflict resolution. There's a huge component that focuses on partnerships with both the department, LEAs, as well as community stakeholders and families. And I'll talk a little bit about the Family Leadership Advisory Committee, which we built into the proposal that provides an opportunity to build parent capacity. And then the ongoing support and mentorship to youth and their families. Once we've resolved their question and or issue, the serving as partnering with organizations that can serve as a referral source for that ongoing mentoring and support, because it is also critically important and essential that we not only address the primary issue through the program, but that also there's ongoing support and follow-up for students and or their families as needed. And so inclusive of the project is a combination of creating family-friendly materials. We will act as a conduit between families and students and LEAs to help resolve conflicts, assist as an advocate for families and students, assist families and students in navigating programs and services that are available to them, facilitating the resolution of to parent and student concerns, and participate in securing representation to families. So again, PIC will serve, through this program, will serve as a referral source to those other resources that families may need should the need require some legal representation or other form of representation outside of the program, the Ombudsman program. So in terms of structure, the way that the Ombudsperson program will be structured is that it will be run by a program director who will serve as the Ombudsperson. Then there will be assistant Ombudspersons in each county, followed with, in addition to that, direct support staff. So we wanted to be very intentional in making sure that we built capacity within the program to support students and families statewide. PIC currently has offices in Newcastle County and in Seaford. We are establishing a location in Kent County. And so that's an opportunity to make sure that we have representation throughout the state. One, we're also very intentional because PIC traditionally serves families who may need access to public transportation. We serve families in rural areas. We also are very intentional about selecting locations that are accessible to families. And that's really important. That's really critical to families who need to access the program. We certainly will make sure that families can contact us and we are available. Right now, that will be our primary source of interaction with families, but making sure that we're very intentional in terms of the location and access from families as well through public transportation. We also want to make sure that the staff we build a comprehensive training and technical assistance for our staff and professional development for staff. And so that is going to entail a combination of internal training resources that we currently have, as well as leveraging those additional resources and working in partnership with community organizations to provide that additional support as well. One of our partners in this proposal is the Urban League, and they serve as a resource in providing technical assistance around areas such as equity matters, restorative justice, and other areas. And so one other area that I briefly mentioned, and this is a very quick high-level overview, is the Family Leadership Advisory Committee. And so it is very important to build capacity amongst our families, youth, and stakeholders across all of our programs. And so the Family Leadership Advisory Committee, or FLAC as it's known, is also embedded into the Ombudsperson program. And this is established in collaboration with community organizations and stakeholders. It gives the community and program partners a voice in the program policy and the Ombudsperson program policy development and the operation by advocating, advising, and making recommendations for the enhancement and quality of the program. We were very intentional in providing or building in both internal and external evaluative measures and processes to make sure that we had the tools to measure the effectiveness of the program internally, the effectiveness of the staff and their level of support to families, but the overall effectiveness of the program. The FLAC also ensures that there is a supportive relationship amongst community members and stakeholders, including the Ombudsman program staff, parents, children, and other stakeholders in the community. And it aids in the implementation of an outreach plan, which is where we are right now. We are in the process of, we have already developed our work plan. We're in the process of developing and finalizing our communications plan, which includes our strategic outreach, because we wanted to be very intentional in terms of getting the information out to the community that this resource is available, that the Ombuds program is available, and also allowing us time for training and recruitment of staff, because we understand that there has to be a specific skill set. Staff need to be trained, not only in terms of the technical content and technical knowledge, but being able to understand or decipher when a family calls the program. A family is not going to necessarily say to you, I think that my child is being discriminated against, or I think I have an issue in this particular area. So staff need to be trained to be able to hear what parents may not know or may not be able to say, to be able to assist them most effectively, and then leverage that through those key relationships with the LEAs and with other community partners. So I don't know how much time I have, so I don't want to go too into the weeds with it, but I will temporarily stop if anyone has any questions, and I will try my best to answer as there may be some information that I do not have yet. The ink has not dried on this contract, so but I will try to be to answer any questions to my best ability.
Hey, Chuck here. I have a quick one. I hope it's quick and easy. So right now you're in the outreach phase. Then you're going to start receiving, let's call them customers, right? You know, people with, okay, I've got something that I need you to help me ombuds with, right? How do you have even a draft process on how you're going to triage those when they come in? I mean, some are going to be frivolous, some are going to be outrageously something that you have to get on right away. But, you know, do you have a process? Have you started thinking about how you're going to sort those out?
Yes, great question. So we were very intentional about outlining that process, understanding that what's going to be key to the success of the program is also making sure that it is the brand. So people may know PIC, and if they contact PIC, there needs to be a process where our intake specialist is able to screen those calls and then triage those calls to the appropriate personnel. So we've already outlined and built in that process to be able to triage those calls. There will be a dedicated phone line for the Ombudsperson program. However, it's connected to PIC as well. So if someone were to call PIC, they can easily be transferred over to the Ombudsperson program. The intake specialist, which will right now, we will start with 2 intake specialists, one who is bilingual and one who's bilingual and one who ideally both could be bilingual, but we want to make sure that we have at minimum 2 intake specialists, and they are provided training on screening the calls to identify if this is a call that goes to the Ombudsperson program, if it goes to the PTI, which is our other program that serves parents with children with disabilities or special needs. Once that call comes into PIC and they go through the intake process and the screening process, then there's the referral to the respective program. And that's where case management is provided within the Ombudsperson program and or our other programs. And once those that support is provided and the issue or concern is resolved, there is outside referral if needed. And there's follow-up, a post-resolution follow-up with the family as well. So we were very intentional, Chuck, in outlining that process to make sure that when families contacted the program, they were able to get the support. And we were also creating that consistency across the board, so which is critical in the training piece. So when parents access or whomever access the program, they're receiving the same level of support across the board. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yep, somewhat. Yep.
Okay.
Hey, we have a few more minutes before public comment time. Does anybody else have a question or comment? Or do you want to say some more, Midra?
There's a question in the chat from Monique Martin. She's asking what languages. So we currently identified, PIC currently has staff that are bilingual in Spanish and Haitian Creole. And that was just based on assessment and the needs of the students that we interface with, but we also have access to the language line as well, if necessary, to support families of other languages.
Okay, anyone else? Well, Midra, do you have more for us? Or, 'cause I know you said, I don't know how much time I have, but. Are
Well,
you-
you said that, I'm not sure if I answered your question, so I want to make sure that,
Right. I guess, and maybe I didn't ask it. So, yeah, I used to be a librarian back in the day and university, and they talk about the reference interview. So sometimes people come to a library and they don't know what they're looking for yet. And it's your job to kind of maybe trying to tease that out. So there's that. You did mention that. That's a great thing to acknowledge. But, I just don't, it'd be interesting to see, and I don't even know if we'll even have the privilege of access to this, what kinds of things are coming to you through the ombuds, which ones are more common, which ones are, wow, these are so common that districts and charter schools need to take a look at what we're doing. How will we get that stuff? But, it's just kind of, and I guess we'll see, right? We'll see.
sure. And remember, this is the first of this kind in our state, and this is an opportunity to collect this data and for us to identify those trends and those potential gaps if there are systemic gaps. We do utilize Salesforce, which is a pretty comprehensive system to track all of our data. So we have the capacity to identify primary issues, trends, what counties they're calling from, what schools or LEAs they may be calling from, what that post resolution follow-up looks like. And we are prepared to present that data quarterly to the Family Leadership Advisory Committee. That information will automatically be shared to the department as well. And so that could be an opportunity for you to have access, or this group to have access to that data as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, Midra, thank you so much for being with us today and giving us an overview of the Ombuds Office program. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
Yep.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, you too. So I think next we have public comment, right? Any public comment out there? Not even Bill? You usually, yeah. All right. Well, if not, next slide. Okay, we talked about our next meetings. February 7 is on the books, and we'll see if we have that one or not. But these other dates here we have, and contact info is below for Kelly and the consortium. And what else do we have? It's probably last slide, right? All right, we don't do motions to adjourn, do we? No? All right. Well, it's been great seeing you all again. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. And watch your email for information from Aaron and the support staff on the evaluation framework. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.